Welcome back, everybody, to the Overwatch League, and you're joining us here for the match between the Houston Outlaws and the San Francisco Shock. Arguably our match of the day. I think we've seen some very convincing results out of the Houston Outlaws recently. They couldn't quite clinch out the win the other day, but I won't bring that up too much because I know it's recent memories that can often hurt the most.
Exactly.
That could be a line out of. Sorry.
It's a sore spot for the Houston fans, I think.
I thought you said sauce pot. And I was like, what?
And this team has been able to get upsets in the past before. Now, earlier today as well, the Houston Outlaws announced that Raucus was going to retire. That's the USA Overwatch World Cup champion as well, and one of their team leaders. So he's going to be missed from the Houston Outlaws fans. He's been one of the players that's been with this team the longest.
He's a long-standing player, he really is. And I think as well, one of those players that got a lot of unnecessary slack from, I think, some of the fans as well. And yeah, this is a guy who, I mean, you said it best. He was the champion of Team USA in the recent World Cup. So definitely a guy with many accomplishments. It's unfortunate to see him retire, but, the life goes on, the world keeps spinning, and the Houston Outlaws, well, hopefully they can win a map 5. We're going to find out in this game at least. Maybe it will go to map 5, who knows. Still, with that being said, we do have a connections presented by Xfinity as well, because, little known fact, some of you might know this, but Dante used to play for the San Francisco Shock way back when. Right?
He did.
2018.
And the head coach, Harsher, as well, actually, used to coach for the San Francisco Shock, too.
He wished he played.
Definitely didn't play. But both of these connections are running between the San Francisco Shock and the Houston Outlaws. And Dante has been such a huge player for the Houston Outlaws since being traded from the Shock. He has really been the focal part of this team and the way in which they've tried to rebuild. He's been fantastic in recent performances. He's been really good even when his team hasn't quite been able to get over the finish line. Been able to play the Tracer and the Sombra and the Genji recently too. So I'm looking towards Dante again to have big performances here. I think if they get the win over the Shock, he needs to be playing some comfort hero and play it to a high level.
Yeah, his Sombra, I think, when they pulled it out in that series the other day, was so good at just being able to pick out key targets with the hacks and everything else. But Dante's good on a variety of roles. That's what makes him, honestly, really, really good.
Yeah, I think he's the best player on the Houston Outlaws, and when you consider that they have Meko from the NYXL, that's high praise. Yeah,
very high praise indeed. Well, this is what the Houston Outlaws are going to be rolling with today, and it's pretty standard stuff. What we come to expect, I think, as well from the Houston Outlaws here. Hydration, still in his main tank role as he was the other day, and he has been steadily improving in various aspects. Normally, it'd be the Orisa or Wrecking Ball that we've known him for, but he's starting to flex a little bit more into other roles, like the Winston, like the Reinhardt.
He definitely looks more comfortable, though, in the Orisa, and that's why I think that this no hero pools meta should favor him a lot. And even though I've talked a lot about Dante being the best player on the Houston Outlaws, one of the biggest difference makers for Houston is Linksa. When he's having a great game, he looks in just fantastic form. And yesterday, when they played against the Valiant, even though they lost in a really close map 5 game, Linksa was on form. He was hitting shots. He was hitting ridiculous headshots all over the place, actually. And even though this guy's been criticized a little bit for being streaky in the past, he has just amazing peaks. His ceiling is fantastic. So if they're going to come out with a win today, if they come out with an upset over the Shock, it has to be Linksa playing up to the level of ours.
Yeah, when Linksa is playing, on point, it's a very scary thing. Yeah. This guy is so powerful when he's on point. And when both Linksa and Dante are playing on point, even a team like the San Francisco Shock should be coming into this with a little bit of caution. They've been, putting out some pretty suspect tweets kind of in the lead up to this game. That kind of implies that they're maybe not taking this game seriously, but they are at least going to be rolling out with a serious lineup, which is the good news here for the San Francisco Shock. As you guys can see here, going to be running Hans Rascal. There's no funny business. Obviously, Moth playing as well as Violet is suspended for a game, but everything is pretty standard.
And that's why people might have been expecting something a bit weird there because Violet's suspended. So they were teasing Super playing Zen. Now, I don't know whether that's going to happen later on in the series or something. Or they actually teased Moth playing Winston too. I'm not going to promise you guys that this is the roster we're going to stick with because Shock are wild. But I feel like this one might just be a bait. I think it's a bait.
Because you can't disrespect Houston this much.
Yeah, you have to put a bit of respect on Houston. They have been vying for that 5th place spot, honestly.
All right, well, we actually spoke to Smurf and got some thoughts onto his recent teammate Tayo joining the team as well and what his expectations were moving forward.
이번에 타이어가 팀에 들어온 지는 얼마 안 됐지만 최근에 들어 이제 좋은 모습도 많이 보여주고 열정이랑 노력도 많이 하고 있어서 저희 팀에 굉장히 많이 도움되는 것 같아요.
So there you go. Yeah, I mean, don't ask me why Smurf was sat on a body.
Who was he sat on?
Don't know, Josh. I don't have the answers for you. I mean,
he's got very athletic-looking legs, whoever it is.
Yeah, why didn't they just? I don't know.
I don't know. I've no idea.
Recording.
I mean,
need... one of our producers actually did a bit of hunting and thinks it. You know, it may have been Striker, but
You think?
It's hard. I mean,
I'm
who
not
was that person.
I'm not clever enough to be able to deduce that.
What did Smurf even say?
I was just
looking focused on the person he was.
I was just looking at the person to lay down on the couch. I don't know. I think he said that he likes Tayo.
He likes Tayo. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Tayo has been such a good addition, I think, to this team as well. Statistically speaking, he's done very well, and this is a role that he played years ago, but generally speaking, he played hit scan when he was playing in Contenders. So this is a role that he's had to get back into. Not an easy task by any measurements. Regardless of that, we're going to be heading into the map set as well. So the first map will be Nepal, and you know, Nepal, we've seen it, what, once, twice?
Yeah,
today?
We've seen it a couple of times today. Yeah, for sure. What I'm interested to see is what does Rascal end up running? Because we've seen a notable lack of Rascal recently. We saw Super on the Genji. We saw Tayo playing the Genji. Now when they're up against a team that you should respect a bit more, a team towards the upper echelons of the middle of the pack, the Houston Outlaws, they are running Ants Rascal. This is what most people would have expected the starting lineup for the San Francisco Shock to look like, but we've had to kind of readjust our expectations when it comes to San Francisco recently. They've been throwing some weird stuff, so I'm not quite sure. I mean, Rascal maybe... I mean, maybe he just plays the Genji full-time, but maybe he pulls out a Pharah or a... I mean, we've seen a little bit of Junkrat even be played recently.
Yes, they absolutely have. Rascal, I am curious as to what he's going to be pulling out. Oh, the Torbjorn? I mean, this seems like a tease. Look at what everybody else is running. Yeah,
there's no chance, surely.
Now, we briefly mentioned it, but Moth being in this roster means that there is an inherent weakness, because they have been running Twilight and Violet across the board for when they're running these, I guess, double flex support compositions. And Moth has not been as strong when he has to play away from the Lucio. This is an opening. If Houston choose to capitalize off of it, they could, potentially.
That's definitely true. I think it'll get mitigated a little bit by Moth playing the Brigitte. I think Moth can play a very serviceable Brig. Maybe not quite at the same level as Violet, but pretty up there. Rascal on the Genji. Interesting. Yeah. This is what everybody thought he would be playing. Well, really quick 2 right clicks there and Lynx is down.
Yep, found an open pick. And yeah, you're right. We all thought that Rascal would be playing the Genji for this team. Finally get to see it a little bit in play. And he's worked his way around as well. He's wrapped around. And you can see that dashing through all the opposition. Already up to roughly 50% of his blade before the point is even captured.
Ah, you're one of those that likes to round up when you're talking about ultimate percentages.
Why not?
That's what you like to do when you're in games as well. I've got my blade.
I actually do all the time. Yeah, I actually do all the time. You know, because I just have faith in my own mechanics, which unfortunately is unfounded.
Both of the Genjis are having a bit of a duel over on that left-hand side. Rascal backs off a little bit. Now he's up to 50%. Choyobin's the closest to an ultimate, though, really. If he could get off a big flux, that'll allow Rascal to build up his blade as well. See if the Shock want to play aggressive here or just rely on Ants to get a pick.
I mean, Lynxer, when he's good, but going up against Ants, potentially one of the best hit scans in the world, it's a hard ask for him, and he has to play quite cautious, quite passively. Notice how the amplification matrix is just forcing Choi! Oh my goodness, what
Why did he face that?
I don't know. I mean, most players respect the amp matrix, but that's what happens when you don't. And now, the ants! Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, the fight's over.
Reset.
Quick reset, yeah, tactical reset. Tactical reset.
Of course. Definitely didn't just mistime the
deflect shoot, yeah.
Well, nice retake from the Houston Outlaws. Made a little too easy, I would say, by Choyobin just face-checking the amp matrix. But Houston are now in control, and this is the thing. The San Francisco Shock have got to play with that same kind of ruthlessness that we used to know them for. You can't give the Houston Outlaws an in to these games, because even though they haven't had the results recently, they're still a good team.
Absolutely. See Dante using his blade. He wants to try and get a good fight from it, but Troy is in the corner. Great accretion. Very, very low, but no one really able to follow up on it. Now, Davidic Flux of his own comes out. Connects onto 2 targets. Moving in with the blade. Again, Rascal goes for it. It's defensive at first, just to take out Dante. But can't quite find a follow-up target. Linksa moving on the off angle. The flank. What a headshot! Linksa. Absolute beastly performance. Going for the second one on Ans as well. Finds the headshot. Now boot forwards, though, and Ans will get the better of it. It's looking so good for a moment. Now the San Francisco Shock have been given an opening to see if they can get this capture again.
Rig armor OP, says Linksa. As yeah, the only reason, honestly, that Ant survived that was because he had some left over from Moth, I think. So there we go.
Matrix.
Linksa could have made some kind of ridiculous play happen there. Another Ant Matrix.
The trouble is they've got no bodies on the point here. Now Choi is playing the corner, but he's getting pressured out.
Meko's done a great job of just keeping this alive. This point is still in control of Houston.
Yeah, and now it might be even more so because of this supercharger that's laid down, but Rascal takes out Linksa from afar. The right clicks just enough damage to take him out with a headshot. Now he's going for the second one here. Finds it onto Repel. The rest of his team can start to clear this up, and just in time. If you look at that, 90% and counting.
That's a great delay.
Happy.
That's everything the Houston Outlaws were looking for, though. They forced ultimates out of the San Francisco Shock, albeit not a huge amount of them. The Shock is still building back up to some big ones. But the Outlaws getting that into one fight territory. Now they just need to push in, have one successful attack, and they'll be golden. I mean, last time, they were kind of given a freebie when they attacked, and the Amp Matrix came out, and they just got an easy pick on Shogun. I don't think the Shock will make it easy for them again, but we've seen magic come out from Linksa in the past.
Yeah, tries to go for the headshot there. Threading the needle. Gravitic Flux is going to be used to try and initiate this one in. Instantly met with the Immortality field, but it gets burnt down by Rascal. Moves in with the blade into the back, but he's in so much trouble. Oh, the hold comes off onto the side. Smurf finds it onto Jexa. Jexa, I think, trying to shut down Rascal's blade. They instantly answer back. They find the opening, and they win this team fight out. Off the back of this, it's going to be a round win, realistically. There's only a couple of players left. Can they even touch this one? Bolt comes through, points them away from the point, and they can't even touch it. In the end, the San Francisco Shock taking round number 1.
Smurf's halt there is just an example of the exemplary peel that the San Francisco Shock can do. Because when Rascal is in a horrible position there and he's getting just bombarded by the Outlaws players, he's not really close to any of the rest of the Shock. But the Shock still find a way to convert that terrible situation into a win by having Smurf get a really clean halt off the side onto Jexa and trade 1-for-1. And now we see Rascal moving over to the Farah. This is great. Dante loves to roll out on the Junkrat. We saw this in the Outlaws versus Valiant game. And again, in the Valiant game, it was KSF who rolled out on the Farah. This time, Rascal. This should just lead to an immediate teamfight win for the San Francisco Shock. I'm surprised that the Outlaws are going for this again because it got totally red by the Valiant, and now it's getting red again by the Shock.
Yep, this could be a huge reason.
They're just going back.
Rascal's in. Yeah, I mean, you have to do this,
yeah,
right?
Of course.
You can't play this comp into it. But, I mean, good on the Houston Outlaws, actually, for having an instant response to this. They seem to know exactly what they want to run against this composition, which would signify that it's at least being ran quite regularly. It's scrims.
Yeah.
Teams have an idea of what to run against this.
Yeah, this is cool, because now that the San Francisco Shock are on a Farah comp, the Houston Outlaws have essentially baited them into that and gone over to Sombra Tracer dive. And if they can get good dives onto the backline or onto Ants, they'll be in a great position. They have given over first control, and Repel must not die. He does. Combination of the DPS players from the Shock results in an easy kill there for the Outlaws Ana.
Moves into the backline, Ants with another one as well. I mean, it's unusual for a player to play Widowmaker on Village.
Yeah, it
the
is.
The sight lines are quite narrow. You're not really given many opportunities, and the opportunities that you do get are few and far between. Yet Ants makes the most of it.
I mean, Ants is in a conversation for best in world when it comes to the Widowmaker. There's other players you might put up there, but you've got to include Ants' name when you have that discussion. So he's just making it work. Raw skill at the moment. And the Outlaws haven't been able to get anything done with this Sombra Tracer comp.
Nice little sleep down for hydration, but not enough to bring him down here. Point almost getting flipped over to Houston, but they're contesting this. And remember, Shock are still in control of this point. Nano Boost is up for Twilight. just needs a recipient, and Houston are finding it difficult to even get a foothold in this first point.
Their backline's getting terrorized by Rascal, and so Repel can't get in position to heal their tanks or heal anybody, honestly. This is just so difficult for the Ana player from the Outlaws to find any value. Maybe they'd be better off with a Moira or something, even though Moira does not sync up well with the rest of their comp.
Oh, wow, that's actually so good from the San Francisco Shock. The sleep dart just negating the nano boost, the peel coming out from Choi as well to save Ans. And yeah, Josh, what can they even do? Linksa with the pulse bomb takes Ans out of the fight, but Moth, he's got the res available. This is smart, they try and get it, but they don't actually get the res in time, they don't deny it.
So unfortunate. So unfortunate.
On 5 health, okay.
And you've got to also say that this comp doesn't naturally suit Linksa. He's not a Tracer player, he's not really known for it. More known for the Genji, if anything, than the Tracer, although he has played the Tracer a little bit in the past. But this round, although it looked like the Houston Outlaws knew exactly what counter comp they wanted to run, they've found zero success.
It might be final fight here for them. Rascal comes in with the barrage. So much work being put into him as well with that damage boost laid on top. Now the Outlaws do flip the point, which is a pretty critical one for them. Think about it, now they don't have to dedicate any resources to it to try and flip it back over. Rascal, though, is just able to rain these rockets down, and he's already picked up Linksa. Might be going for more close quarters! 3 kills! You've got to be joking. Getting the D-Mech as well, but pushing him off the point. Rascal, so potent here when he's playing the Pharah and switching over to the Tracer. The point flips over into their favor, and now can anyone touch this one? Moving over to the ball here. Hydration laying down the pile driver. They do find 2 picks. Finding good openings. Looking at back now in their favor. Absolutely could be turnable, and they flip the point over, which is the critical part again.
Great sleep.
Primal Rage being committed, but slept out, but they already killed Dante and Linksa. This fight's so scrappy. Yet winnable for either side here. Hydration rolling forward takes out Ans as he moved over to the Tracer now, but it seems like the Houston Outlaws might just be able to get the better of it.
Yeah, they're going to be able to get the win here, and amazingly, they managed to flip the point over very early on in that engagement. So all of the time when that scrappy fight was happening, the Houston Outlaws are just laughing their way to the bank, because all of that capture point time is ticking up. 50% already, and Houston have basically lost every team fight apart from the previous one. EMP here should give them final fight territory if they're actually able to execute.
Oh no! Oh, he's dead. Yeah.
Oh, what a crazy sleep from Twilight.
Even with the reduced flashbang percentage as well, not enough for him to translocate out of it. Yeah, but what
they needed Dante
to set that up.
They needed Dante and his EMP. Without that, I can't see a way for the Outlaws to win.
Might have to go clutch here. Have to find an opportunity. Maybe Linksa gets a one clip. It's so hard though against this kind of backline of the Shocker running. The EMP comes in a little bit later. Answered back though, as you can see, Rascal dove in. Repel will fall. Meko lays down the self-destruct, but it's encased in a perfect little bubble. Enough to save the rest of the teammates. The San Francisco Shock committing a lot of ultimates to this fight. Outlaws, one last attempt as the beat fades away. The whip shot takes out Dante, and that is going to be map number 1 going away to San Francisco Shock.
Well, Houston Outlaws had their openings, honestly, and they looked like they had a good understanding of the meta game and how the compositions play into each other. It just failed on a lack of execution, I think. They couldn't escort Repel effectively into the point. They really struggled to deal with Ants in the backline of the San Francisco Shock. And even though Dante, we know that he's such an amazing Sombra, even he wasn't finding too much value. The hacks were few and far between, and they just couldn't coordinate the dives. Unfortunate for Outlaws, because they certainly had their opportunities there, but the Shock, they look pretty good as well. Not really upset by a lack of Violet. Rascal looking powerful on the flex DPS.
Yeah, that final round was, I mean, aside from the one team fight that the Outlaws did end up winning, pretty one-sided, I will say. And I think this is the kind of San Francisco Shock that we've always expected. They always come into every match with 100% effort. Now, in recent times, obviously, they've taken effort off the gas a little bit. Example, Super Genji. But outside of that, generally speaking, they do put in their best team. They put in all of their effort into matches at hand, and they like to crush their opponents. But the Houston Outlaws, I think, will quite easily showcase, actually, the longer this series goes on, that they are not quite so easily crushed. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, the remainder of this series will be played out. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll see you soon.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
우승을 해서 더욱더 격차를 벌릴 수 있도록 노력하겠습니다.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Overwatch League. Wasn't expecting that. I don't know why. I was in my own little world. Because, we've got a substitution being made.
Yeah.
Do you remember when I said that the San Francisco Shock always take their matches seriously? They never really, just mess around a little bit. Well, Super is in for Rascal. So
trying their hardest.
Doing
their best.
Okay, but
Rascal played well on the Genji, right? I mean, I don't know. Unless Rascal has an inability to play Genji for an entire map and must swap over to the Pharah, this continues to baffle and befuddle me, but it's fun.
Statistically, Super is #1 in a lot of categories. Granted, he has only played against, what is it, Boston, Vancouver?
I think. Yeah, like the real bottom level teams. Super's come in and just played a very safe kind of Genji. He's #1 in elims per 10 on Genji in the league, but that doesn't mean that he's the best Genji that the Shock can field. I don't know, man. I couldn't help it. When you were saying that they were the #1 team and I could see the super sub just before we went to break, I was like, oh my word, what are we in for on Gibraltar?
Yeah. And I know where the cam's going to be going. We're going to be following that super cam all day long. Listen, I'm all here for it. Any opportunity for the super ego to be deflated, I'm down for it. But we're going to be heading over to Gibraltar as the map, which is going to be an interesting one. Now, an interesting fact as well is that Super, I don't believe, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, he hasn't played in the Orisa Genji meta.
No, he hasn't. It was only in the dive kind of meta where Smurf was playing Winston and this kind of stuff. But that's that's probably what we're going to see on Gibraltar. Gibraltar doesn't normally have double shield. There's a couple of teams that try and run it, but they almost always lose. Winston comps are just much better. So I think they've subbed back in Super here because they scrimmed most of the time with Super playing Genji when Smurf was on Winston. And it plays pretty similarly to the previous meta where you were just playing dive the whole time. I don't want to say that it's the absolute ruthless best San Francisco Shock kind of style that we've seen in the past from them, but it is really entertaining, and there is an argument to be made that Super will be more practiced with this style of dive Genji, so I'm just looking forward to it again. I mean, anytime, Bren, that I can get another YouTube video out of watching Super's Genji, I mean, that's money in my pocket as well, isn't it? He's single-handedly financing all of the content creators around the scene as they just make another bunch of clickbait Super on Genji again videos.
And there's a part of me. Okay, here's the thing. If I was to say one team is my favorite, it would be the San Francisco Shock. But there's a part of me as well that just wants to see Super put in his place with the Genji. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's that Philadelphian attitude, you know?
Here's the thing though, Brent. The Outlaws aren't very comfortable playing these kind of divey comps. Hydration on the Winston hasn't really impressed us, and the whole team doesn't seem to sync up very well with this dive style. So we're really looking at Linksa popping off on the Widow perhaps when he's not being answered by Ants as the answer here, not really the dive from Hydration at all. And so Super's going to have a bit more room to work with.
You see Linksa searching for the off-angle shots, and he connects one onto Choi, but not much else.
Ants hacked, but he survives. Good peel.
Might be able to find it. Yeah, I mean, that's so dangerously close. The deflect as well came out just in time from Super. You get these shots. He's just spraying right now, checking for the Sombra. Ooh, found it. Okay. He's got bubbled, though. I mean, this is a dangerous scenario. He's going to be building up 50% to his EMP right now, and Linksa, look at the amount of pressure they're applying to him. He cannot find any shots whatsoever.
Super up on the high ground, doing actually a good job of controlling that area. Previously, we've seen him be very passive, very safe. But you need on Gibraltar to control these high grounds. Super and Smurf have to be a core part of that. So it puts a bit more pressure on Super to perform in this match. Doing well so far, though.
Yeah. Pushed away from the high ground. Might be able to get a kill here onto Dante, but he just going to relocate out. But a lot of time has been bought. You've got to think. 2 minutes 30, that's what the time bank says. Super hacked up. Might be a dive attempt coming out onto him here, falling quite low. An Ana boost applied onto Hydration, but he's lost. He doesn't know what target to go for. Said he's going to be going on to Smurf in the backline, but Smurf gets 2 kills.
Smurf's so good. He zoned out their entire backline in the middle of that fight, and Super was able to survive as well. The Outlaws weren't quite fast enough at being able to capitalize on him being hacked. And now Shock, even though they've lost their Ana, they have EMP and Blade up. And that, I think, should be enough to save them and allow time for Twilight to get back into position.
Yeah. The EMP Blade combo can be quite a deadly one.
And Linksa has yet to find a real opening pick. If he does at any point, that could well be game over for the Shock, but results are surely going to come out now.
Beautiful timing with the EMP, but counter EMP from Dante is excellent. That's magic. Denies the Blade. Stops Smurf from getting out of there, and Smurf had the Primal. The hack just faded enough that he could have used the Primal Rage, but he didn't get it off in time. Hydration now using his own. Sets it up, and Choi, though, gets his grab on Surge. It's grab 8 by Meko. This fight has just gone so well for the Houston Outlaws here. Everything that could have gone their way has gone their way.
Yeah, amazing plays from them. They're dealing with Super now. Great whip shot from Jexa. What a fantastically intelligent way for Dante to use his EMP. I love that. Counter the EMP, and the San Francisco Shock have pushed their players forward, expecting to get value out of the EMP and Blade, and they get nothing. They just sacrifice their positioning. Now they're just getting cleaned up off the spawn, and this is going to give the high ground advantage to the Outlaws. What great play from Houston. This is the kind of stuff they need to win the series.
Look at this aggression as well. Getting these picks is so important just to stagger it out, because sometimes getting through this hangar phase is so difficult, but you can see they've gained control of the high ground again on this, on the shuttle, I suppose you would call it.
Yeah, Dante with another EMP too. I wonder if he's going to use it again to shut down the Super Blade. It's so many win conditions that you just cancel with one EMP.
Nana's going to be utilising on the hydration. That's mainly because Lynx is not close to his own blade. Still, Ans with the EMP. Dante's just going to be waiting. It is a question of, do they want to use it for the counter EMP? Dante tries to find it. Counter EMP finally comes out, but not before the Shock have got 2 kills. I'll be able to turn it around though, especially when Smurf is hacked up. The bubble comes out, but he's being chased into close quarters. Dante finds another one. Jexay overstepping himself though. Ruined by Choi Hyobin, laying in these right clicks when he's charged up. Zarya is so powerful. Able to pump out so much damage against pretty much anyone. One of the primary damage dealers, even though it doesn't seem like it. Outlaws seem like they want to keep fighting this one.
Still a Nano Blade available because the Shock didn't commit it in the previous fight. So while Hydration goes in with this Primal Rage, the San Francisco Shock have built up another EMP and
he gets slapped! The bubble came too late. Twilight utilizing that Nano. It was wasted, and Linksa now with his own blade. The grab comes out, will be locking him in place, but not before Linksa took out Super. Still, the EMP connects onto 3 targets. The Outlaws have to back off a little bit here. Hack comes out onto Ants. Can they peel for him? Still, Smurf moving in. Another sleep. Repel has been so on point with these. 2 back-to-back critical, but unfortunately not enough to turn this team fight in his team's favor.
Smurf played fantastically there, but I want to give another shout out to Ants too. His EMP building has been so fast. Pocketed by the Brigitte, pocketed by the Zarya. He moves off it now to his comfort pick of Widow, but I'm constantly amazed by this Rookie of the Year candidate, Ants. He was known as a Widowmaker one-trick basically when he came into the league, and he has looked top level on the Widow. He's played Tracer at times at a top level, and now the Sombra, and has got massive value out of all of these hero picks. Great play from him. Dante, though, has an opportunity here to make Ants' life a terror. He was so good against the Valiant.
Oh my goodness, that was like a horror movie. Moth just came from nowhere, shield bashing into his peripheral vision.
He's like a bat, not a moth. Hanging upside down off the roof of the hangar. Springing on you in the dark.
Funny mental imagery. Anyway, Linksa. Linksa is going to receive the Nano, but he's nowhere close to his blade. And his neutral game wasn't able to find anything from it. It's going to be traded out. Can anyone even touch this one? I mean,
surely.
1 meter off until the Houston Outlaws were able to get it, but Smurf, again, going to be doing a lot of damage to him. Linksa, though, finds 2 of his own, and that's the backline that's really being dealt damage here. Smurf jumps back on and takes care of it. These right clicks are so, really damaging to Dante to trying to stay into this point. Final fight here. Hydration might be able to touch this one, but he does not have his Primal Rage.
And way too many ults up here for the San Francisco Shock too. Hydration dies, Blade is just going to zone, as is the grab. And the San Francisco Shock are almost certainly going to set a really good defensive line in the sand. Yeah. Whip shot, just to deny Dante. And that's a good defense from San Francisco, especially when you consider that the Outlaws did a pretty good job of shutting down Super every time he went for a play.
Yeah, the impact that Super was able to get was honestly really mitigated. I think the Outlaws did a fantastic job of pushing him away, but the thing is with Super's Genji is it's not an aggressive style. It's very much him playing his role of what he needs to do, whether that's contesting high ground, you know, maybe taking a 1v1 against the enemy Genji just to sort of deny them positioning. He does it all from a passive angle where he knows his team can back it up, because at the end of the day, that is what the San Francisco Shock excel at, and it's the team play.
Yeah,
that kind of aspect is what they're always going to be having, way above most other teams in the league. I'd say most ever because this year, finally, we've started to see teams that, you know, can compete more than one other team. You know, like last year we had the Vancouver Titans. This year we've got Paris, we've got Shock, Florida at times, Valiant at times, Shanghai as well in the APAC division, Guangzhou. Yeah, so many top teams this year, which is really fantastic to see.
Yeah. Super is having to play a bit more aggressive, though, just based on the meta, because Striker isn't there to be a phenom.
Lingsa, what a shot onto Moth. That is excellent.
Beautiful.
Really
Just as the
well
shield
played.
goes down as well. Great stuff. Another headshot onto Choyobin too, and Smurf gets finished off.
This is what you
Dante
need.
up to 40%. This is exactly what the Houston Outlaws need. Their defense has been way better than their offense on Gibraltar. So, oh my goodness. If you're a Houston fan, fear not, because as soon as Lingsa gets going, this defense could easily win you the map.
Yeah. Swing of momentum. That's what Overwatch is really about. Right now, Lingsa has so much of it in his hands.
You've got to respect him. You really
have to.
do. At some point, I imagine that Ants will be forced to go over to the Widowmaker to try and contest him. Because otherwise, Lynx is just buying time for Dante to get the EMPs.
Yeah. There's only so many angles you can take, though, on the Widowmaker. That's the downside of it, especially
Yeah, very
attack. But the EMP comes out, connects onto 5 targets here. The Shock just get destroyed, crunched in the choke. And a sleep down to Ants as well. Oh my goodness.
EMP Nanoblade will eventually come online for the San Francisco Shock, and at that point, you've got to ask, what does the Outlaws have to be able to counter it? Oh, Ants is going to move away! He gives up all of that EMP charge to move away to the Widowmaker and take the kind of ego duel against Lingsa. It does put way more pressure on Lingsa to actually find the correct angles.
They immediately dive onto Ants to try and deny the impact he's going to have. Immediately forcing his sightlines. But they're doing the exact same now. You can see onto Lynx on the other side, and now it's time for the Nanoblade. Super leads it in with 2 kills. If we get any more, they might be able to get this D-Mech. In fact, they absolutely will onto Meko. There's not many players that can really stand up to the San Francisco Shock right now. That was a really good approach, I think, by the Shock there that a lot of people might not appreciate.
Yeah, just going for a counter dive of their own, pushing in. Smurf took so much space, and they've managed to save both their support ults as well. That's a really good offense. They've managed to take point A, and they've still got momentum into point B. This is crucial. Unless the Outlaws can quickly wrestle control of the high ground back, it's going to be dangerous.
Yeah, Lisa has that infra side.
Yeah. And they've got a lot of ults to work with here, the Outlaws, too. They can use the Primal and the Bomb to push people off this high ground for sure.
Okay. Troy's got to be careful here, getting caught out of position. 1 headshot and 1 dive attempt could be enough to burst him through, but Hydration still has his Primal Rage. Hack comes out onto Smurf, but Ants falls, and that is going to start a cascade of events. Enough to win this team fight outright, and they might even be able to get a stagger out. Yeah, they do indeed onto Moth, so that is a great hold, I would say, from the Outlaws, because they didn't really expend any ultimates, just the rally.
Yeah. And I've been a bit critical of Hydration when he's been playing the Winston, but so far on this map, he's playing it really smartly. He's been all the ways in the right positions, getting mad value out of his dives, hasn't been getting caught out of position at all, which, to be fair, is normally what the Genji would punish you for, so maybe that's also a factor of Super not playing so aggro, but Hydration playing really well so far, and he's got a Primal. He could do so much work when they're just all shoved in that corner.
Yep, the Primal Rage is going to get offloaded. You can see Hydration just trying to essentially knock somebody into the line of sight of his team to take care of, but now it's Ans's time with this infra side. Okay, Hydration's going to get the Nano Boost now, moving in, but Super with the blade comes out, hacked, slept, everything utilized, sleeping on the job. Shock trying to turn it around though. They're going to be using that grab and the bomb. They do bring down Meko, but is it enough? The respawners are going to start to come in now for the Houston Outlaws, and the Shock not really much to work with.
Must win territory! What a shot for Lingsa! That's what he needs!
So good right now. He's so good! Hitting so many shots right when he needs them. The card is being pushed in here, but they can find an opening again. Smurf falling is exactly what they needed. Hydration needs to stay alive, but they chunk him down. Okay, turning a good situation to a slightly worse one. Lingsa though turns it around, but Ans takes out Lingsa. One for another, and when Ans is on his high ground, he could get a lot of work done. Still, they back off, hopefully. Yeah, the Shock going to be backing off here. I think they realize that they can't really be taking this fight any longer. Only a minute 30 left, Josh.
That is going to be enough time for the San Francisco Shock to get these ults up. And with that first pick, that's huge.
You've got to be joking.
Dante was amazing at putting pressure on the enemy Widowmaker yesterday when he played, but Twilight's there with the peel, and suddenly this amazing defense from the Outlaws is starting to crumble.
Okay, Twilight is going to get swept up again onto the high ground, but realistically that's going to be fading, and the picks have already gotten the way of the San Francisco Shock here. Hydration trying to stall it out. grab is going to be used immediately as soon as the self-destruct is used, just to catch him and ensure that there was no chance of it being 8 up. And the shock, it feels inevitable watching them, despite the fact that the map was actually quite close. But they are going to be taking map number 2, and Ans, he's just flexing in the chat. My aim is sick. Sad face. Why are you sad, Ans?
Sad face?
Yeah, a little frowny face.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why he's sad about that, unless he's meaning sick as in it's ill. He's ill.
Yeah, I mean, the aim is ill. I don't know.
Maybe a bit of a translation error there, but the...
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, so he is...
So Linksa tried to say in a chat, I think he said, my aim is...
My aim is sick, and he said mine too.
Mine too, and then Ans went, no, yours is better.
Yeah, I think he's meaning sick as in, like it's off. Like
yeah,
it's
ill.
off. It's not quite good. Where he would want it to be.
Nevertheless, that's a nice, wholesome interaction between two players, yeah.
But Ans did get the better end of Linksa towards the final part of Gibraltar. That's pretty huge. Shock have already clinched a top 4 seed here by going up 2-0 into a halftime. And also, Bren, if they can complete the 3-0 over the Houston Outlaws, they are going to lock up our number 1 seed. They will overtake the Paris Eternal.
There is a lot that actually comes into this, and a lot of people probably won't realize that, but yeah, we're still playing for the seeding here for the Countdown Cup with this match. So
super important.
The Shock need to not drop a single map. Otherwise, as you said, Josh, Paris are going to be the ones walking away with the number 1 seed for the Countdown Cup. They want to be avoiding that at all costs. Well, we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, you're going to have the game break, our expert analysts, our big-headed analysts, analysts from various countries. I'm sorry, that sounded like I was insulting them for a second. But I can assure you, their craniums are quite large. They're going to be bringing you all the breakdowns. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to our game break presented by Pringles Wavy. Zoe here, joined once more by Reinforce as well as Costa, and the San Francisco Shock are unsurprisingly up 2-0. However, that first map, honestly, that felt like quite a brawl. Reinforce, I want you to kind of break it down for us. Did it just feel like that, or was it just an individual skill matchup versus more like a strategic matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was a typical game where the San Francisco Shock comes out and they are just the superior team. They engage first in most fights. They get value first with their ultimates before the enemy team realizes a chance to react. So I think it was a very well-played map by the San Francisco Shock and just kind of a go-next scenario for the Houston Outlaws.
Costa,
but there were a few things.
I see the struggle.
Don't let him finish. What?
Okay, no, you finish and then Costa.
What? Now you're making me nervous. Now I'm self-conscious about what I'm saying. What? I just think it was nice, but like Rascal was in the mix. I think he had a good performance. It was overall a good game by the San Francisco Shock. It was nice to see Rascal in the mix.
I just thought it was weird that we were ignoring exactly what Johnny did at the start. Okay.
What did he do?
Nothing. Don't worry about it. Okay, moving on.
No, don't worry about it. Yeah.
Well, all right then.
I agree with that, Rascal. The diversity that he has and provides has been awesome for this team. But when we go on to map 2 and we start to see Super come into the lineup, the thing that stands out for me about how they get this win is Smurf and Choi Hyobin. Like, the amount of space and pressure they apply is insane, to the point that they can even win Watch Point Gibraltar when Super is getting slept in every single nano blade. We have Lynx are doing a really good job keeping Arns in check. It was like really hard. Everything was going against the Shock, but they're still able to take it to the Houston Outlaws, and that's what impresses me the most. Smurf and Choi Hyobin are solid as a rock, and that's what makes these two players so great and why they're both MVP candidates.
On Gibraltar, though, we do have to compliment the Houston Outlaws. They brought the aggression. Yes, it wasn't enough, and yes, they didn't get the W. However, they did play that one thing which would give them the victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that's, God, it feels like every time we talk about Shock, I just feel like I'm just complimenting them 100% of the time. One of these days I want to say something bad about them, but today is not that day.
Well, I mean, you could say the fact that Super got slept a lot in that time, but like...
We're talking about that later, don't worry.
Well, I mean, that was the big takeaway. You asked for something, and there it is. I mean, that was the big takeaway, really. But yeah, I was impressed by Unsummer as well. I think that was very nice going up against Dante, of course. So it was a really back and forth map. I was actually quite happy about Houston Outlaws, the way they were playing Watch Point Gibraltar, because they had some pace to it, and they actually brought it to the San Francisco Shock. They just didn't let themselves be run over by the train that is the San Francisco Shock. They actually took the tempo to the Shock. They counter ultimate. We saw Hydration step to the plate as well, Primal Rage in the backline, etc. So it was a really impressive performance by the Houston Outlaws, even though the San Francisco Shock continued to be one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, I think if we learned anything from the repeated victories of the San Francisco Shock, looking at their opponents, it's never been paying off for them to actually be passive and on the back foot. So I do love the aggression and the tempo the Houston Outlaws are bringing. Now, you just mentioned it, Reinforce. There was one slight thing we could say negatively about the San Francisco Shock. However, I would like to say something positive about the Outlaws here and compliment their support backline. Costa, what you got for us in our crunch time presented by Pringles Wavy?
Yeah, this is sort of a two-pronged attack right now, because first of all, we're going to be like, haha, Super. His Genji blades have tried to go aggressive because they're usually incredibly passive and do nothing. But now he's tried to go aggressive and ended up in the exact same problem. But we need to give props to Repel. He has been so good throughout, especially on Gibraltar, just hitting sleep after sleep, nullifying ults. He gets 2 onto Super with the Genji Nano Blade, just shutting down their ultimate completely. I think he dies both times after that sleep is hit as well, which you just got to give massive props, because that's a game-changing ultimate. This match would not have been anywhere near as close if Repel is not hitting these sleeps.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I completely agree. It was super sick to see, especially when they're nano blades as well, because, then you have 2 ultimates invested and you shut them down with 1 sleep dart. So very impressive, and unfortunate for Super. Maybe with some more practice, he can get some good Dragon Blades off in an official match, because we haven't really seen him yet.
The teams are ready to head into the next map, which is King's Row. However, I very quickly want to get some thoughts from you. So just very, very quickly, we do have some subs. Smurf is out, Super stays in. This time he will shift as the tank role, and Rascal is in as a DPS. What are you thinking?
I mean, Reinhardt is a big Genji, right? So it makes sense.
Does he know how to play tank? It's been so long, I can't remember.
Well, let's see if
find
he's
out.
rusty or not. But definitely things will happen on the server, and I can't wait to see them go down on King's Road. So stay tuned. The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back, everybody. It's me, Budget XQC, and Mr. Clean bringing you the action once again. The Houston Outlaws versus the San Francisco Shock. And so far, the San Francisco Shock, they are leading 2-0, but it has not been easy for them. The Houston Outlaws will not go down without a fight.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And Brent, I know that everybody in the chat was wondering about who Smurf was sat on top of earlier on. And we've sent out the detectives, and I'm here to tell you that we now have the information. So get in your final guesses right now, because we know that it was, drum roll please, Brent. Wonderful.
I have to lean by my desk.
It was Choi Obin. It wasn't
Choi?
Striker.
Wow.
It was Choi. So there you go. Choi Obin was just for whatever reason decided to take a nap as Smurf was doing his interview beforehand.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was about.
Doesn't answer my question, though. Why?
I don't know. I still can't answer that question. Just because he was comfortable, maybe. I don't know. Maybe he sleeps like that on the sofa with a pillow over his head.
Nap. I actually do. sleep like that.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems like you would suffocate yourself to death occasionally.
Every now and then. Like last night, Seth was casting downstairs like until like 6 in the morning. So I don't know. It's like you just press the pillow on your head.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're very strange. I'll tell you what else is strange.
Oh, dude, I can't be the only one who does that.
I think you definitely are.
I mean, clearly not. Choi does it as well.
Choi wasn't trying to sleep. Anyway, Rascal has come back in for King's Row. But that isn't really the interesting thing, in my opinion, because, you know, Super's out from a DPS position, so you might be like, oh, that's unfortunate. We've seen our last of Super for this series. No! He's straight back in to replace Smurf.
Yeah.
And
that
seems to indicate they're playing Reinhardt, right?
Yeah, I was absolutely thinking that. I love how pleased you were to be breaking that news when the Watchpoint halftime show.
No, I know they already talked about it. Yeah,
they broke the news, Josh. They got there
but
before
that is
you.
weird.
It is strange, but yeah, I think that signifies exactly what you said. Reinhardt compositions, probably. King's Row, synonymous with Reinhardt, because it's like his shield was made for the narrow choke points of this map.
Almost like they designed the game with heroes in mind.
Yes, yeah, sure. I mean, it definitely, I don't know why, it feels like it just fits, you know? Like, King's Row is grey, and it's sooty, because you're in the England, it's like a Victorian England, but it's not Victorian because it's the future.
Right. What does that got to do with Reinhardt? He's
Reinhardt's
German
got, like,
and
grimy,
not sooty.
But he's got grimy, his grimy armor, he's like, I don't know, he's a knight.
Not grimy.
He's some of his armor is grimy. Yeah, he's a knight.
Yeah, I mean it's more he's more fitting with Eichenwald, the map in which he was made. I think you're gonna have members of the Overwatch development. Yeah, I mean, or where he was. I don't know. From I suppose is. I mean, he might have been made there. Who knows? Reinhardt might have been conceived in Eichenwald.
Sure, maybe. I don't
Possible.
know.
We'll have to ask the developers. I mean, I'm not sure.
That's a question. Yeah. Hey, Jeff. I know we haven't spoken a while, but I'm not going to go into it. The Shock versus the Outlaws. Outlaws look like they're teasing something here.
Is this another hard read from the San Francisco Shock? Do they know that Dante's going to be on the Junkrat? And they're hinting that Rascal's going to be coming out on the Farah?
Well, is this
Hydration says they have Farah.
Yeah, Rascal ended up shooting himself in the face with rockets, and now they see. Yeah, okay. I like this. Dante was running the Junkrat, I believe.
He still is.
For Outlaws, yes. But I mean in the previous
yesterday,
match.
Yes.
I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday he ran it against Valiant.
I love it. It channels the spirit of Jake. Jake was casting it at the time, and he was like, "Oh, he's getting all giddy, you know, like he usually does."
Yeah, schoolboy.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. The composition itself, though, tries to take advantage of the massive amounts of spam you can post out of it.
Shock are so fast, though.
Yeah, they've already got to the point, Josh.
They're so rapid when they have Super and Moth on Ryan and Lucio. It's their best look, in my opinion. Hydration. They just look so good.
Oh, poor hydration. Okay, Ans is almost getting that 1v1 going against Dante as well. And this feels like it should be an inevitability right now. The pin comes through. There's a lot of damage being worked through this choke point. Repel the last one standing, and it is going to be that instant capture. 5.5 minutes.
There is no team in the league. There is not a single team in the league that can stand up to the San Francisco Shock in a rush meta. When you're playing the Lucio and the Reinhardt, nope. You can keep your Shanghais and your Guangzhous and your Parises. Nobody beats the San Francisco Shock in this kind of meta. It is a main tank difference.
You know why?
Super is dominant.
Well, I actually wasn't even going to say that it was a main tank difference.
Oh, what?
Super comes into it, I think, but the biggest component, I think, is Moth playing the Lucio again. I think I really do rate Moth a lot, and I think obviously he hasn't been seeing much playtime recently, but they're just hiding.
The taunt to look around the corner, though. It's a taunt to look around the corner to check, to see if anybody was running up top, just using that emote. And I think they're looking for a flank from Super. This has got to be obvious, though. You can't see anyone on the Shock.
Dante! He just lays in the mines. Rascal gets blown up when they were trying to be stealthy. Not quite.
Oh, that's so funny.
Protected in the moment. But they still want to fight it looks like. They got a coalescence, I suppose. They could go for a Super speed boost coming into the flank. That's a scary thought. Especially when he has that Earth Shatter ready and waiting.
He's got to weave his way past two shields, though, Brent.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? is hard. That's what they can do. He lays it down. 2 targets on the deck. Okay, why not? Super with the charge as well. And just like that, the San Francisco Shock, it was explosive power. Blink and you will miss it. But just like that, the team fight was won.
And Bob, bless his little heart, can't really get anything else done.
Tried his hardest.
Shock is just so good in these kind of metas. Rascal comes back in to play the May here. This is just a beautiful, beautiful kind of look for the Shock. Jex is going to try and contest, but there's no hope. This checkpoint is done. It's over, surely. Wait, what?
Unless Super goes down, Linksa kills Rascal.
Oh, wow.
And the caster curse strikes. All right, go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I thought for sure they had got that, because even with the Immortality field coming down on Meko, if Super had just backed up a little bit, all of his spawners were coming back in, and they could have just kited the Supercharger and killed those people who were contesting one by one. I am surprised they went for... I'm surprised they didn't react to that effectively.
Twilight was searching for a bit of back cap opportunities. But Dante's moved over to the Sombra, so he's going to be getting a lot of vision, a lot of information, and trying to get one of those hacks off. He's going to be calling because they're flanking around the right side here, rushing through. Now they're going to be speed boosting straight into the wall comes up. Troy using that gravitic flux to try and launch a couple of the members into the stratosphere. The opposing team, that is. Hacked up, though. He's in a dangerous scenario. Does get tickled to death by Sombra's SMG, but not before. Feels like the overwhelming majority of the Shock members just powering through. 4 minutes in their time bank. A lot of time to work with.
Also impressive how they're able to finish off these kills without having ants on some reliable damage dealer like the McCree or the Reaper. They're playing Rush with the Widowmaker, Bren. It's kind of wild that ants can find this kind of value, but he's so good on the hero.
Super with another Earth Shadow. Wall comes out and it does connect actually. It's going to be even locked in. Forces out the Immortality field as well, which is pretty key.
Big Earth Shadow will have nobody to save them as well, and Dante dies 94% of the way to the EMP. That's the go button for Super and Moth, surely.
This is very, very weak. Headshots again! Nails it, but Linksa gets the body shot. There was no heals for him. Still, looks like the Shock are just winning this brawl engage as they speed boost straight into them. Oh, the orb misplaced a little bit there, so Twilight's not going to be getting that extra damage, but the wall is going to be stopping them from even contesting it.
That's domination.
3 minutes. That is pure domination.
Dante did not get an EMP. And EMP, as we know, charges up insanely quickly. It's not like he was playing that hero right from the beginning of the round, but he had a good time to try and build that up. But the Shock are just so aggressive. They're right up in his face. He has no room to be able to work with. Got killed on the opportunities where he tried to build it up. Yep. And the Shock are so dangerous to play against because they offer you no breathing room whatsoever. They are suffocatingly aggressive. They put so much pressure on their opponents constantly. Especially with Answer the Widow, so you don't feel safe taking sightlines, and then you've got Super and Moth in your face with Choyobin. It's such a deadly look. And this, in my opinion, is where the San Francisco Shock look head and shoulders above every other team in the league. There are other metas where other teams will come close, but not in a meta like this.
Yeah, when you give that speed back to the San Francisco Shock, when they can play at that high tempo, the rush style, good luck beating them, honestly. Yeah. It feels like they just operated, I don't know, their brains are just circling the neurons at a higher rate. I don't even know if I'm saying words properly.
Their brains are circling their neurons at a higher rate.
They're thinking faster is what I'm trying to say.
I wasn't aware that's how brains worked, by circulation of neurons. Is it like blood flowing around you?
That's how I think it
Your neurons circulate, yes.
That's how I think it works in my head.
Were you a doctor, Brent?
I have never been close to a doctor before. Yeah, well, anyway, the game continues. Moving this conversation along a different direction, possibly back to the game.
Super on the Orisa. We don't often see this.
Yeah, that is an interesting one, but they want to be playing this double shield for this first point. Rascal! Dive attempt comes through. Rapal will end up falling. He's very low, though. Rascal, that is. Eventually, he's going to get healed up here. He knows why the Inspire healing. Echo caught out of position. And I gotta say, it's a difficult ask for Houston to try and win this one right now, because honestly, in this neutral game, even the Shock I would give the advantage to.
For sure, but there's definitely more opportunities here to beat them than when they're playing the Reinhardt comps, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You can try and outbrawl them. Dante's had some excellent performances before. If Linksa gets an angle and finds a pick. But Rascal is a nightmare at the moment. He's playing so aggressive and putting a lot of pressure. Last fight, he killed a Repel immediately. This fight kills Linksa immediately. Playing kind of silencing the doubters who wondered how well he would be able to perform on Genji.
He's doing really well, and it's quite questioning, actually, as to why Rascal hasn't been playing previously, but
yeah, it is.
It's a little bit scary, the capabilities of the Shock, what they've got on their roster on each individual role still.
Yeah.
Hydration taking a lot of damage as he tries to work his way through the choke point here. The Hulk's going to be pulling them back, but Rascal has the blade, and that is going to be the immortality down. Stunned up into the corner, comes through, gets at least one kill. Does come out with some value, but traded out by the Houston Outlaws. Yeah, and this is what the Houston Outlaws are realistically looking for. Even if the fight doesn't go exactly their way, if they take a couple of people down with them, they have the faster spawners.
Yeah, the spawn advantage is what they're playing for here. Linksa falling, though, is a crucial pick for Ans. Linksa was caught out in a tiny little angle, and Ans finds the dynamite kill. And that means that he's bought a little bit more time to get Super back in this fight with Rascal. And ults are online, they can stop this push.
Yeah. Christian tries to come through, but dead. The amplification matrix and the supercharger is way too much damage to be pushing through. You've got to respect that instantly, and unfortunately it was too little too late. They were already through that little building area. Couldn't back off in time.
The Shock are so good at winning fights when they're 5v6. When they have a player coming back off the respawn, Shock and Shanghai, and actually Paris is starting to do this too, are just so good at being able to stabilize.
Really
and,
excel at it, yeah.
Yeah, and not let a single pick lead them to a whole capture loss.
That's nice. Okay. The halt into the gravitic flux, but gets cancelled. Meko did not even get it off in the slightest. I'm not sure who cancelled it, but in the end, it doesn't matter because the job is done. Still, Super ends up going down. Losing your Orisa player, not ideal to try and push through this main choke point, but to try and stop this push from going through the choke point. Rascal ends up going down as well. And now the Outlaws, I think, can safely say that they should have this one in the bag. With the Shock, you never know.
Yeah, you never quite know. They're looking like they want to go for another recontest, so the Outlaws have to commit ultimates to this.
Caught in the flux
from Choyobin!
Oh no, they're not going to turn this, surely not. They might be able to find something here, but it's too much damage here, and the Outlaws, they just about hold on to it. The Amp Matrix had to get committed, but Josh, think back as well to the Shock on their attack, initial attack, and how they had, what was it, 4.5 minutes to work with?
Oh yeah, so much time. Outlaws with only 3 available. But on the positive side, if you're an Outlaws fan, yesterday you saw your team lose so many winnable fights against the Valiant. Just throwing away 1 fights left, right, and center. This time, they clutch out. In the middle of that fight, when it looked like it could be going the way of the Shock, instead, Outlaws hold strong. Use their advantages, play together, good focus fire, and they come out with the team fight win. They're playing much better than they did yesterday. They're playing up to their opponents, even if they're not 2 down.
Rascal does have the blade ready and waiting. Hands with the bomb as well, he's found, yeah, okay. Dante was just hiding on the side there trying to pick off somebody, but that is the job of the Genji player. Maybe not in this particular sort of composition, but the dash again, and that is so clean. Able to find the right click, shurikens in the head, way too much damage. They don't even need to expend that many ultimates. What is that? Not even using Bob, actually. They used, what, the Amp Matrix?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the Amp Matrix and just the raw kill onto Dante, because Dante wasn't providing any damage in the middle of that fight either.
Yeah.
And Ants has better angles to throw in his dynamite. Ants, by the way, has been superb throughout this entire match. He's continuing to perform, whether it be the Widowmaker or the Ashe or the Sombra that he played earlier as well. Tracer at times.
Impressive, isn't it?
He's so good. I have to keep reminding myself that he's a rookie because he's playing like an absolute veteran talent.
Another opportunity for them to push through. Rascal goes down. The big flux will get cancelled out. I think that was actually coming out from Choyobin as he sent out his own. So look at this side damage coming in from Ant as well. So much in the off angle. Bob just to stall it out a little bit, but nice coach gun just to avoid them for the time being. Super with the supercharger. Really up to be using it around this corner. See if they want to go aggressive again.
And again, Shock have stabilized after losing an early player and losing a team fight. They've stabilized for another team fight, and now they're in a position to win. What a sick combination of the supercharger and the blade. They lost Rascal so early in essentially this same team fight. And then Shock just disengage, keep all of their players alive, and then push back in once Rascal is recombined with the team. It's so good, and it's what separates the elite of the Overwatch League from the rest. This ability to not snowball a disadvantage into a complete disaster. They're so good at stopping the bleeding and refighting.
He was on the flank there. No one actually saw him. He's going to be trying to go for something. You can see on the left of the screen, going for something going on. But Bob ends up taking out Twilight early on. So the Amp Matrix is going to be pushing them away here. Ants gets stunned up, but he's still in his off angle. But look at that, the spam damage removes him from the fight. Thanks to just pre-firing that corner. Choi though going to be using that Gravitic Flux just to send a couple of up, but Choi goes down to the dynamite damage. Wasn't able to get the ultimate off, and it is going to be a big team fight win now for the Outlaws. They needed to win that, obviously, with the overtime in effect. And they have another opportunity here. Now, I think they'll be able to cap this without anybody contesting, but it might be quite tight.
Yeah, they don't have a Lucio on the side of the San Francisco Shock, so I don't think there's anybody who can actually contest. Remember, it was Jexa last time who threw his body into the maw of the Shock to make sure that they could hold on to point B for a little longer. But nevertheless, 1 minute 23 here for the Outlaws to be able to cap checkpoint C. The Shock already completed with 3 left in the time bank.
Oh, well, Linksa keeps getting picks like this. Could be turned. Sans fell. Again, peaking. Not respecting that amplification matrix is so bad, honestly. And a lot of essences, and Linksa again popping off. Super going down. The dynamite damage just blowing them up in the back line. And they might actually be able to finish with some time here.
The San Francisco Shock are going to have ultimates, though. They're going to be able to push back out with the rally. It will be answered.
Ants caught out of position. He's down.
He definitely
Ants
will.
going down.
That could be huge. Shock is still going to commit to this, obviously, but it's going to be tight.
Dante now has the blade. Critic Flux from Meko just to send them up into the air once again. Repel. Stay alive, trying to help his team, but now Dante with his own blade rolls it forwards. Answered back immediately. Trades across the board. The Bobs are on the card, just sustaining it, keeping it in suspense here. Knocking Bob off the side of the map there. He won't be touching it, but it will mean that the Outlaws are going to get that cap.
With time left on the clock.
Critical thing.
That's so huge. Only, a matter of seconds left on the clock there for the Houston Outlaws. But crucially, they're able to complete. Link's saying in chat, he wasn't even sweating. Not even close. Not even close. It gives them an opportunity to win this map instead of just playing for the draw, which can be a huge, morale loss just in itself.
The Outlaws are going to have to realistically come out swinging here. Obviously, they have less time. They're going to be on the attack first.
Yeah.
It's a hard ask for them, a minute, considering
what do you
how
even
long
do?
it took. I mean, it took them forever to cap this first point initially.
Yeah, it was like a full 3.5 minutes to be able to take Shock Point A. So I'm thinking maybe they go for a change of strategy here in the overtime in their second round. They have a bit of time to talk about it, see if they want to run something slightly different. I'm not sure what other compositions you would use though on offense, really. I mean, you could swap the Linksa over to the Ashe when he was playing Widow for the majority of the attack, but apart from that, the meta is fairly well defined on King's Row. It is Genji.
I mean, you might have to get Linksa on the Widowmaker just to open it up with a couple of key pickoffs.
Yeah, just hope. Just hope that he hits the shots.
The consistent damage from Ashe is good, but
this isn't really
you need
happening,
pickoffs.
is it? Oh no, Hydration's back on the USA. Yeah, this is normal. They're just going to have Dante swap back over to the Genji, and this is just to circumvent that first choke point. I thought for a moment they were going to try and play dive with Hydration on the Winston.
Well, that would have ended in misery.
Probably. All eyes on Linksa here.
But the Outlaws now have rotated. They've taken away the high ground, which is the important factor. We can consider here.
Great shield from Choi.
Of damage, and yeah, that was Choi's shield to block the dynamite damage. It was really impressive. Reaction time's able to spot that and block it out. 20 seconds. That's what Houston have got to work with here. Otherwise, the best they're going to be looking at is a draw, and at worse, defeat. Rascal hunting for an opportunity on the sideline, seeing if he can get a kill.
Really fast Amp Matrix, Brent. Repel with an Amp Matrix already.
Alright, and if this doesn't get respected, could be a big opening for them. The Hulk pulls them into the line of sight. They're starting to get some bodies on the point. They're going to get over a tick. Tested just about here. Dynamite damage going to be ticking over the shock here, but they pulled them together and the dash through comes out. Rascal putting in so much work and nobody touches. No one touches it, Josh.
Well, technically winnable is what I'm going to give this one.
Sure.
33.4. Oh, well, okay. It says 3 there. It doesn't make much difference anyway, does it? To quibble about whether it's 33.3 or 4. Yeah, a bit of a rounding error there.
Recurring, of course.
Recurring, of course. Thank you, Abdul. Number crunch. The Shock are almost certainly just going to waltz in here and take it first time, because their point A attack previously was utterly dominant. But it is technically winnable. The reverse sweep would have to start here. It would be a bloody uphill battle. What a grind ahead of the Houston Outlaws for them to win this match and perform another upset like they did in Stage 3 of 2019 during the GOATS meta. But this is where it would have to happen. This defense has to be sublime. Perfect. Hydration must...
you know?
Yep. I mean, strange things have happened occasionally, ever. I can't think of any, but they have happened.
I might be able to think of some if I really think hard. I've got some weird knowledge tucked away in my mind. I can't think of anything at the moment, but yeah.
Okay, alright. Well, keep us updated.
I'll try. The opportunity, all eyes are going to be on hands to see if he can crack this open on the Widowmaker. Searching for these off angles, just seeing if anybody's waiting behind. He's probably going to make a switch. He's kind of... okay. Gonna be
Look how decisive the Shock are here. They're going to move into hotel. They're going to... oh, that's game over.
Yeah, objects are falling. So difficult for them to get anything done, and Lynx is next, and... well, they all come tumbling down after that. Doesn't take much to try and get the entire team fight just to be won over on the side of the Shock, and yeah, the Outlaws, they definitely tried their hardest here. They turned it into a winnable scenario, they brought it to the 3 checkpoints, but ultimately not enough against the San Francisco Shock. It's going to make them 19-2 in the overall season here. GG's across the board, and that will mean that the San Francisco Shock actually take on #1 seed in the Countdown Cup.
Yep, this final map incredibly important because that puts the San Francisco Shock level with the Paris Eternal at +11 map differential, and they edge them out. They win that head-to-head because the Shock are the higher overall seed. Again, Brad, 19-2 on the season. And those 2 match losses, they were a long time ago to both of the LA teams, back when the Shock had a weird read on the meta.
Season 5, maybe?
Season 5?
Sorry, week 5. Yeah. Sorry.
What's that?
My brain isn't quite right these days. I don't know what's
maybe the
on.
Shock will still be dominant in Season 5. That would be quite the dynasty to set up. They'd have established an empire at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a really good showing from the San Francisco Shock, of course, as well. And I'll be honest as well, I was a little bit scared for the San Francisco Shock when they were running Super on the Genji again. The disrespect that you can show can only go so far. I mean, the Houston Outlaws are definitely a very good roster, much better than they've ever been in recent seasons. So it's a roster that can always take wins away when you least expect it.
I will say, though, Brent, there was an argument that Super was the right pick for Gibraltar because it's more of a dive style. You have Smurf on the Winston. That's what he's been playing and scrimming with the team for a while. So I don't know whether it was a full-on disrespect pick, but Rascal certainly has looked good on the Genji. So I would expect Rascal to be playing this moving forward for the team. It looks like a solid pick for this team. I don't know why we haven't seen it before, but he looked all right.
Yeah. Well, let's shift the discussion over to another player on the San Francisco Shock, and of course, our player of the match is going to be Ans. He played, well, every single map that we did see for the Shock play today, and he did it with style, with prowess, winning a lot of the hit scan duels, putting in the consistent damage, and playing a multitude of different roles. He could do it all.
He certainly can, and I think Ans is an incredibly deserving player of the match presented by Xfinity here because he has just come out and played a bunch of heroes that weren't expected from him. He came out with clutch picks time after time, including that last one on Jexa to open up King's Row. He's an amazing player that no one really expected to be an amazing player. No one thought he would be a Rookie of the Year candidate. They thought he might be a great Widowmaker, but not much else. But Ans has surprised everybody, and just the the tutelage of the coaching staff and the veteran presences on the Shock have molded players like Ants, and probably will in the future mold players like Tayo into powerhouse candidates for these kind of awards we have at the end of the season.
Yeah, quite impressive. We're, I believe, getting an interview underway. We're just trying to get the pieces together, so to speak, and I believe it is with Super. Could be wrong about that one, but yeah. We're going to have that with you shortly. As you can see from the standings, the Shock have locked in that #1 spot. Oh, so important. They'll be able to take their record even further, I suppose, as well in the Countdown Cup if they're capable of taking a pretty good showing moving forward into the Countdown Cup, because of course you get wins if you end up winning the Countdown Cup.
Absolutely, yeah. Those wins are so important to play for. The number one, the person who wins the entire thing, getting 3 wins. That's what the San Francisco Shock were able to acquire in the May Melee. But they actually got upset in the Summer Showdown, and I think that even though the San Francisco Shock are looking really powerful right now, a lot of people might have them not as their favorites in the tournament itself. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting because a lot of very powerful teams over in North America in this specific meta.
Yeah, well, it's that time you've all been waiting for. It's interview time, and we've got Super down on the floor, our Lord Sovereign, ready away to just, I don't know, maybe make some demands and things like that. I don't know. Take it away, guys.
Well then, Mr. Delisi, here we are. Once again, you're in the interview booth. Another clean 3-0. I mean, did you put any respect on Houston Outlaws going into this game?
I mean, we kind of just, did our usual work, just scrim the week, and then whatever works, we just use it. If it doesn't work, we just throw it to the side. Nothing too out of the ordinary.
So it did work, I assume.
Yeah.
Clean 3-0. Yeah.
Correct.
Well, there you go. Once again, you played some Genji. You also played some Reinhardt. You also played some Orisa. Let's start with the Reinhardt, okay? So Moth was in the mix today. How did that impact your practice? Because Violet was suspended, of course, for 1 game. You had Moth in. How did that impact your practice this past week?
I mean, it wasn't. I mean, it was, obviously unfortunate that Violet did not play, but I mean, we kind of just did what we usually do. I mean, Moth, he's obviously a great player, and we just slide him into the lineup, and he was, he's played for a long time with the team, so it's not like any synergy has been lost. He just kind of slid right in perfectly, and it worked out. Yeah,
we even got to see some Lucio Reinhardt, so even I appreciated that. Thank you very much.
So did I.
Yeah, good stuff. Now, about the Genji, okay? Because we need to have a talk, okay? What's the end goal here? Okay, like what are we trying to accomplish here? Is there like some kind of goal because it wasn't in the mix today again? How long are you gonna keep playing Genji?
Okay, I don't know why everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people seem to think that's like a disrespect or like a BM thing. I don't know where that. I didn't say you did, but there's a lot of people saying that it's the Shock's just disrespecting or they're BMing. No, it's not the case. It's just what we practice, and when it works, we use it. That's all it is,
So there's some strategical or tactical kind of thing?
Of course.
Okay, yeah. Would you mind sharing that, or is that private information?
I would prefer not to, but...
Sorry?
I would prefer not to, but...
Okay, well, that's fair. That's confidential information. We won't spoil that going into the Countdown Cup. Can you at least talk about the practice conditions then? Because you have 3 Genji players. Do you practice with all 3 Genji players going into the week's matches?
Yeah, so we kind of try to, figure different things out, rotate in and out, like how we want to play with, different strategies, different ideas. And, sometimes it works with some players and works with others for different strats, and we kind of just get a feeling for that and use it in our match.
So are you trying to stay as versatile as possible then? So you have certain Genji players play different styles, or are you focused on getting like 1 peak potential getting into the Countdown Cup? Like, what is your priority? Versatility, or would you rather have a great peak potential going into the Countdown Cup?
I mean, I feel like versatility has kind of always been Shock's thing. Like look at last year, how it happened with Goats, and then we go into Double Shield, and then a lot of players got, more play time, and we kind of continue that this season. So I feel like we like to just stay versatile, and it usually works out for us, so.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll let you go because you're a busy man, of course, but I have one more final question.
Yes,
there are some people, I won't name any names, but they're claiming these days that Paris Eternal might be the best team in North America. Do you have any comments on that, of course, being from the Shock, going into the Countdown Cup?
I mean, I feel like, people are entitled to their opinions, but I'm always going to think that we're the best, because if you don't think like the best, you're not going to be the best, and that's pretty simple, I feel like.
Yeah, that's pretty true. Well, thank you so much, Delisi. You have a great evening. Take care.
You too, sir.
Congrats on your 3-0 win.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's it for the matches today, but we got the Watchpoint post show coming up with me, Zoe, and Costa. So stay tuned for after this break.
Peace out.